Greetings to you all. I am Mrs. G. Hannah, lecturer in English, Government Degree College, Satyavedu. I welcome you all to this learning module on listening skills. The objective of this module is to understand the importance of listening and its various types. To reach this objective, we will follow the route map of first differentiating listening from hearing and then look into the role of listening to understand its importance, and then have a look at various types of listening. At the end of the module, we'll also apply the learnings of this module to various scenarios. As outcomes of this module, the learners will be able to gauge the difference between hearing and listening, understand the importance of listening, and adopt the apt type of listening as the situation demands. So let's get started. Listening is the chief cornerstone of communication process. It is the first of the four communication skills, namely listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening paves way to the other three skills of communication. Listening is a receptive skill and includes number of sub-skills like receiving, understanding, remembering, evaluating, and responding or giving feedback. Listening might be defined as an art of hearing and understanding what someone is saying, but it is only a vague definition because listening is not merely hearing. Listening can never be equated to hearing. There are many differences between hearing and listening. Let's look at some of them now. Hearing is a natural, involuntary, instinctive process, but listening is not. We do not strain ourselves much to hear, but a conscious, focused, and purposeful effort has to be put in to listen. We cannot but help to hear the sounds that bombard against our eardrums. But listening is registering those received sounds. We pay attention while listening, but we need not pay attention to hear. Listening takes a lot of energy, but hearing does not. Listening is a learned and exercised skill, but hearing is natural. Listening is an active process, but hearing is a passive process. Having now understood the difference between listening and hearing, it's important for us to understand how important a role listening plays in communication process. Many a times we blame the initiator of communication for lack of communication and miscommunication. But as a receiver of message, even the listener or the receptor of the message could be the culprit. If the initiator or the speaker or the source of the communication lacks in communication, maybe the listener has shown disinterest or is not efficient enough to grasp the speaker's message, and this is what reflects as lack of communication. And even when miscommunication takes place, it's mostly because the listener has failed either to receive the message in its totality or has failed to grasp the intention of the speaker or has lacked in empathetically responding to the message that he has received. Only with the presence of the listener can a miscommunication take place. So we can say that listening plays a vital role in the process of communication. More so because the speaker and the listener's roles are interchangeable. That is, in the process of a communication, when a message is passed from the speaker or the source to the receiver receives the message, and in response to the message received, he becomes a speaker or the source and gives feedback to the speaker who then becomes the receiver. Thus, in the process of communication, both the speaker and the listener play equally important role. Not just in the case of communication process does listening play an important role, it also plays an important role in various aspects of our life. Let's have a look at them. Effective listening helps foster successful partnership. Healthy relationships are built by good listening. Good listeners build trust and are trustworthy. In academics, if you're a good listener, you are accounted as a good student. In social circles, good listeners are relied upon as good friends. And by default, listeners are taken to be knowledgeable persons. Thus, a good listening skill ensures success in student, in your career, in personal and social life of an individual. Having now understood the importance of listening, let's move on to understand the various types of listening. It wouldn't be an exaggeration if I were to tell that there are as many types of listening as there are people, because no two people listen the same way. Their approaches to listening varies based on the purpose, the interest of the listener, the attention capability of each listener, the external factors like noise, technical factors like network issues or lack of technology, and there are various types of listening as well. Basically, they are classified into two: the positive types of listening and the negative types of listening. We'll first look into the positive types of listening, which have to be developed in us for us to be effective listeners and thereby good communicators. Active listening is a part of positive type of listening. Unlike passive listening, active listening makes speaker comfortable and it is effective to retain the information, and it involves verbal and non-verbal feedback. An active listener may use verbal phrases like, let me make sure I'm with you so far. What I hear you saying is, and so on and so forth. He may even repeat or paraphrase or summarize the message that he understood from the speaker, or may ask follow up questions to get the best of the message that has been reaching him. He may also use nonverbal cues as feedback, like nodding the head appropriately, maintaining eye contact, etc. Some of you might be actively listening to this presentation as well. Although you're quite sure that I am not in front of you physically present, you're intently listening to what is being said on screen. I appreciate your keen interest and your listening skills. I also wish the others developed this positive type of listening. But there are some of you who have fixed your eyes onto the screen out of compulsion and are so very disinterested that the sounds get into your ears but do not make any sense whatsoever. You are passive listeners. And if I were to be in your presence physically, I would be most uncomfortable because of your glares. Yet another positive type of listening is content listening. The listener's primary concern in this type of listening is to understand and retain the message of the speaker. This type of listening includes sub skills like understanding the intention of the speaker, understanding the message, key points, directions, or instructions, recognizing the attitude of the speaker. In this listening, the listener collects a lot of information, so it's also called informative listening. This type of listening is found in all areas of our lives. As students, they gather content by listening to the lectures and the instructions of the teacher. At workplace, new practices and procedures are also explained and the employees gather content so as to continue with their projects. In social arena, the reports, be it news reports or the other reports, on the day-to-day basis, the conversations that we have are all a part of content listening examples. If we fail to listen properly and have poor listening skills, where content listening has to be employed, we will be not equipped with enough information, which further mars our communication. The third type of positive type of listening is critical listening. It's a two-layered process wherein the listener identifies the message, observes the message, and not just stops at it, but goes beyond it and attempts and analyzing the ideas behind the message and the speaker. And in doing so, and for doing so, he takes into consideration three factors: the ethos, the logos, and the pathos. Ethos is wherein the listener takes into account the credibility of the speaker. If the speaker is a subject matter expert and is trustworthy, but sometimes even the expert speakers may make some errors in their message. But a critical listener overlooks all these errors and tries to find the logic in argument to justify and understand the message that he has received. The psychological or emotional element of the message that is understood by the critical listener helps the listener to understand the implications of the speaker. Examples of such kind of critical listening are structured talks, seminars, workshops, etc. Critical listening is also called evaluative listening or judgmental listening. The fourth type of positive listening is empathetic listening. The purpose of empathetic listening is to help an individual who is in crisis, an emotional crisis rather, and it also helps improve relationship. It's a kind of therapeutic listening which was used by counselors, medical practitioners, psychiatrists, etc. And it is accounted as one of the highest type of positive listening because it resolves many interpersonal issues. Appreciative listening is also a positive type of listening which is used to derive pleasure and joy. Speaker's mindset, needs, tone, and mood are understood by the listener and are also appreciated. It includes a number of sub skills like interpreting, visualizing, understanding, and obviously appreciating. Three factors that enhance the quality of appreciation by appreciative listeners are the presentation, perception, and the previous experience. Some examples of appreciative listening could be listening to songs or a stand up comedy, etc. All the five positive types of listening that we have looked into are the ones that we have to exercise ourselves to be equipped with and develop within us. And as per the situation, we might employ any one of those skills to understand the message of the speaker better. On the other hand, there are negative types of listening which have to be avoided. Ironically, negative types of skills, listening skills, come to us very naturally. And therefore, we need to exercise avoiding the skills while we try to develop the positive listening skills. Let's now look at the negative types of listening. Pseudo listening is wherein the person is present physically but the mind is absent. Rather, the listener is only pretending to be listening by showing signs of approval like nodding head and maintaining eye contact, but his he is indifferent to the subject or the message that is being passed on to him and is unabsorbing. Selective listener is a person who is very biased and will choose what he wants to listen to and deselect the rest of the message, however important that message might be. A defensive listening is wherein the message is interpreted as personal attack by the listener. The listener ignores, excludes, or even fails to interpret the message accurately and even does not take into consideration the purpose of communication at all. Projective listening is another type of negative type of listening wherein the listener projects his own ideas, perception, and observation so much so that it overshadows the speaker's intention and attitude. It is exactly opposite of open-minded and active listening. While positive types of listening have to be developed, the negative types of listening have to be avoided. As we have come to the end of the learning module, we'll now try to understand and apply the learnings of this module to the scenarios that we come across on a day-to-day life. Imagine you're listening to a song. If you're listening to a song to relax yourself, what type of listening will you employ? And if you're listening to a song to connect with the lyrics and understand the person who has written the lyrics, what type of listening would you employ? And if you're listening to a song to understand the message conveyed through the song, say for example, it's a song on social issue or social to spread social awareness, which of the positive types of listening would you employ? If you're listening to a song to relax or to derive pleasure, it would be an appreciative listening. And if you're trying to connect with the lyrics and the lyricist behind the song, you're trying to employ empathetic listening. To understand the message, the content of a song, you need to do content listening. And if you're listening to a video lesson from an examination point of view, what type of listening would you employ? And if you're going to listen to a video lesson to give feedback or if you think it's going to help you in your research on the topic, which listening skill will be helpful for you? Review all the 5 positive listening skills that we learned about in this module, and you'll find the answers of this question very easily. If you're listening to a video lesson from examination point of view, obviously you're trying to learn the content, so you need to employ content listening. To give feedback, or even if you think that it is going to help you in the research on the topic, you need to have a critical approach, an evaluative approach, and therefore that's the listening skill that you will employ, a critical, evaluative, or judgmental listening skill. I hope you all enjoyed this learning module and learn well. I'm happy that you have been with me from the beginning till the end in this learning module. Thank you so much.